Of all the countless intricate components that go into a football video game, you could argue that the single most important piece of the puzzle is the passing system. The NFL gets more and more pass heavy every single year, and passing produces some of the most exciting plays that we've ever seen on a football field, so it's crucial that a football video game gets the passing system right. But unfortunately for us, Madden hasn't quite done that. Now don't get me wrong, passing is actually extremely easy in Madden 22, but that's more so because zones are completely incapable of guarding anything, not because the passing system is well implemented. However, with the recent release of the Madden 23 beta, it's looking like one key component of the passing system, specifically pass leading, is being overhauled in a revolutionary way that will forever change the way we play Madden, even though it might not happen right away. Now, before we break down the changes to pass leading that are being implemented in Madden 23, we first have to understand the current limitations of pass leading in Madden 22. As hopefully all of you know, you can pass lead by holding the left stick in the direction you want to lead the throw as your quarterback is throwing the ball. This system isn't horrible, but it is hindered by three big limitations. Number one is that there is no on-screen visual feedback. While this isn't a huge deal when you're pass leading to a receiver who's fairly open, it can become a huge deal when trying to make precision passes against tight coverage, especially in the red zone. In this example, we have a situation in which our receiver has a defender a few steps away on one side and a ton of open space on the other. We would naturally assume that by pass leading the ball to the left towards the open space, we could throw our receiver open for the touchdown. Instead, pass leading to the left in this case just puts the ball on the left side of his body, and the defender is able to jump in front of us for an easy interception. This also leads us into the second limitation of the current pass leading system, which is that it can be completely unintuitive. This becomes especially clear when trying to pass lead on deep routes, such as the posts we use in cover 3 bombs. In this example, the natural tendency for a lot of players is to point the left stick up and to the right, since that's the direction the receiver is running and the direction that we of course want to lead him. However, if you pass lead up and to the right, you actually increase the likelihood that the safety will close the gap and possibly intercept the ball. The correct controller input here is actually to point the left stick straight to the right, and that gives the perfect pass lead to hit our receiver in stride. Experienced Madden players have of course adapted to this technique, but for most Madden players, this unintuitive controller input can have a tremendous impact on the outcome of a play. The third limitation of the passing system is inconsistency. Here are two examples of passes thrown by Justin Herbert, who has the ability Pass Lead Elite, which provides increased throw power when leading bullet passes and also provides greater pass leads. Both passes are thrown on the exact same seam route at the same exact time and with the left stick pointed straight to the left. In one case, the receiver mostly stays on his route and the pass lead takes him just a bit to the outside, but in the other case, the pass lead takes the receiver way outside and completely off his route. This lack of consistency makes it more difficult to know where the ball will end up when you try to pass lead a throw, which obviously is a bad mechanic for both the casual and competitive Madden player. So with all those issues in mind, that brings us to the Madden 23 beta and one of the brand new features that EA is introducing this year, which is skill-based passing. At the most basic level, skill-based passing creates a shaded ellipse around your receiver as you're throwing the ball and allows you to use the left stick to place your reticle anywhere in the circle to lead your receiver to an exact spot on the field. Experienced Madden fans may recognize this as being fairly similar to Madden 18's target passing, which was removed after just 1 year due to it being far too complicated for most players to see the benefit of it. Now, Madden 23's skill-based passing system also has some major concerns, but before we get into those, I first want to highlight three big positive aspects of skill-based passing that lead me to believe that this feature will become a permanent staple of the Madden franchise. The first reason is that having greater control over the actions of your players creates a more rewarding experience for the user. The last thing any of us want is to just watch animation-based events unfold in front of us without feeling like we have any impact on the outcome. By giving us the freedom to place the ball in precise spots, the game is putting more control in the player's hands, which in turn will lead to more satisfaction when we're successful. This increased control also leads us to the second reason that the new passing system is here to stay, which is that it increases the skill gap. The skill gap in Madden varies from year to year, but Madden 22 may have had the lowest skill gap in the history of the series. With everyone able to scramble around rushers with Escape Artist, and with defenders often incapable of catching passes thrown right at them, it really did feel like there was less skill gap among players than ever before. With the introduction of skill-based passing, it's a step in the right direction for once again increasing the skill gap in Madden, Madden so that highly skilled players will be rewarded for their skills on a more consistent basis. And perhaps the most important reason that skill-based passing is here to stay is that it adds a new layer of realism to Madden. We all know that the best quarterbacks in real life try to place the ball in open space to throw their receivers open, so it's exciting to see EA try to replicate that in the game. Both the developers and the players want a game that rewards real football knowledge, and skill-based passing is a huge step in the right direction. Now, despite all these positive aspects of the idea of skill-based passing, unfortunately, the implementation of it in Madden 23 is a little bit underwhelming. While I do think skill-based passing will change the Madden franchise forever, there are 3 big issues with the current implementation in Madden 23 that EA still needs to address if they want players to use this new passing system instead of switching back to the classical way that we've all gotten used to over the years. The first issue is that right now in the Madden 23 beta, skill-based passing feels way too risky. It turns out that anytime the reticle is on the edge of the shaded ellipse, if you make the throw while under any kind of pressure, there's an unusually high chance of throwing an inaccurate pass, which results in a ridiculous number of missed throws and interceptions. This risk simply isn't worth taking, and obviously any feature that increases turnovers is going to get turned off quickly by most players. And that leads us directly into reason number 2, which is that as of this moment, most pro players aren't using it. Now, even though pros don't dictate how everyone plays the game, they do set the meta. And if the pros are already figuring out that skill-based passing isn't worth using, then you can almost guarantee that when Madden 23 launches on August 19th, word will spread fairly quickly that you're better off using the classical passing system. But even if you couldn't care less about what the pros are doing, the single biggest issue right now with skill-based passing is that it's way too complicated. What I explained earlier about the reticle in the shaded ellipse is only the most simplified version of the new passing system. There's actually a feature where you can hold down the left trigger or L2 and lead your pass beyond the shaded ellipse. And to make things more confusing, there's actually a setting for the threshold of how far beyond the ellipse you can point your reticle, with options for near, far, and infinite. The near setting lets you point the reticle just a yard or 2 outside the ellipse, which seems fine if you want to attempt to really lead your receiver in a certain direction, but the far and infinite settings don't make any sense at all. It doesn't really seem like there would be a case where you would want the freedom to move your reticle an infinite distance away from the receiver, because then it seems like you're no longer throwing it to the receiver. I personally think it would make sense to eliminate these options entirely and maybe instead have an option where you can set the distance you can move the reticle outside the ellipse to anywhere between 1 and 5 yards. So with all these issues in mind, now let's look ahead to the future. My prediction is that in Madden 23, while skill-based passing right now is being touted as the game's flagship new feature, I think most players will turn it off and instead opt for the classical passing system. But just because players will turn it off, that doesn't mean skill-based passing is going away. And if we look ahead even further, I believe that Madden 24 will be the year where skill-based passing becomes a staple of the Madden franchise. EA needs this extra year to refine and simplify the new passing system, and then I expect them to tune the game so that skill-based passing is the most effective way to pass the ball. Much like the NBA 2K shot meter, which initially received a lot of backlash, over time players got used to it, while 2K also tuned the game over the years so that using the shot meter eventually gave you the best odds possible of your shot going in. It seems like Madden is going down that same path, so even if skill-based passing won't necessarily get used in Madden 23, you can almost certainly bet that a few years from now, everyone will use it and won't think twice about it. Now, even though skill-based passing is the biggest new feature coming to Madden 23, there are so many other important changes as well. So for more on those, definitely check out this video on my second channel where I give my complete thoughts on the Madden 23 beta, as well as my predictions about what the meta will be this upcoming year.